Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending where you are. It's a real pleasure for me being here with you, even if it's through a screen. So my name is Christophe Lafougere. I'm the CEO of Gira. We are a consultancy company specialized in food markets, mainly dairy and meat, and really working all around the world. And today I've got the pleasure to presenting you our latest research and results on the Chinese dairy market, and coming from our annual work called the Gira Dairy Club, and from some update that we've done some weeks ago. So I'm going to share my screen, and in order to be able to present the presentation. Okay, so let's start with the China's dairy development and ongoing modernization and sector analysis. So on my first slide, I'm going to present you the total sales. This is the total sales of the food service sector. And I just want to show you what happened and what is happening in China compared to Europe. So on the left-hand side, you've got the food service sales on the Chinese market by quarter, starting in 2020. And on the right-hand side in yellow, you've got the European food service sector. And I want you to see that on the left-hand side for China, you can see that we've had a huge impact on the first quarter of 2020 with a lot of closures of food service during the first part of the pandemic. But very quickly, the Chinese situation been much better. Back to normality very quickly. And you can see that by the end of last year, so in Q4 2020, we were already positive again, plus 1%. And in 2021, you can see that we are not expecting any disruption at all. And we've got the situation now back on track for the food service sales. This is total food service sales and not only dairy. The only point is we're not really growing as much as we used to grow in 2019, but still we're in a much better situation than the situation you got on the right-hand side, which is the European situation. You can be that even by the end of 2021, we tend to think that we will not see the situation back on track. And we might have to wait until maybe mid of 2022 before having a situation much more normal on the food service side. So why I'm talking about food service? Because food service is a very important sector using a lot of imported dairy products within China. My second, now I want to talk about milk collection. So let's start with this graph where I'm showing you the Chinese milk collection between 2009 and 2025. And we should see that the total milk collection should grow by 5% per year within the next 5 years. But the important point is if you look back the last 10 years, the Chinese milk collection has been growing by only 1.1%. So we are starting to see an acceleration of the growth of the milk collection starting in 2020, where we've seen plus 6.5% compared to 2019. And in 2021, we're expecting close to 7.8% in 2021 compared to 2020. So this scenario is based on the fact that, as I've shown you, we've got a good situation on the food service sector. We've got purchasing power back on track in China, and we've got also a way to add value to the milk that are going to be produced in China, because I'm going to show you it's a very expensive milk. One last point, just to put things into perspective, if you look about the growth for the next 5 years of the milk collection in China, actually China will be the first contributor at world level to the growth of the milk collection. So by 2025, between 20 and 2025, China should represent around 25% of the growth of the world milk collection, where EU, US only 21% each. So China will represent the highest growth in milk collection for the next 5 years at world level. So how that's possible? And that has been possible by two major phenomena. One is we're going to see again a growth of the dairy herd. And you've seen that dairy herd on the left-hand side has been declining over years quite sharply down to 4 million in 2020. And that's going to grow again by a range of 1.4% per year for the next 5 years. This is due to the ability of China to also to import new cows. And for example, in Q1 2021, so over the last 3 months, China has been able to import 88,000 heads of dairy cattle into China. The key point now is what will happen in the future, because you know that there is a ban of imports of live cattle from dairy cattle from New Zealand to China, and New Zealand is being now one of the major suppliers of live cattle. So let's see how China will be able to get living cows in the future. Concerning yield, you can see that we've got a huge growth, and China could easily reach above 9,000 kilos per cow. And if you take the average of Europe, you can see that in Europe, the average is around 7,400. So with, from one end, Ireland in the range of 5, and on the other end, Denmark is in the range of 10,000. So you can see that now we've got large farm, professionally managed in China, with great result in terms of yield. So now we've got really a dairy sector now who could produce more quality milk for the future. The growth of the milk collection will also be based on new farms opening. And here I'm giving you the example of Inner Mongolia. Why Inner Mongolia? Inner Mongolia has been the starting point of the milk sector in China. There have been always some kind of milk production in Inner Mongolia in the past. And now Inner Mongolia represents close to 18% of the total milk collection in China. And that's where Yili and Mengyu, the two leaders of dairy processing in China, are based. And within the next 5 years, we tend to think that within Inner Mongolia, we are going to have more new farms that are going to be created, which will add just for Inner Mongolia 500,000 more heads within that region. And that's only 18% of the milk collection. So that will also be repeated in other regions. So we are going to see a growth of the number of new farms that that will be created in the future. It's also due to the increasing vertical integration, and the way for China and for the major dairy processor to be sure about the quality of the milk, to be sure to get enough milk every month. These guys are investing more and more into the upstreams of the dairy sector, and we are starting to see an increasing vertical integration with, in 2019, these top 12 dairy farmer companies have been one way or another integrated into dairy's processing. And these top 12 represent close to 30% of the milk collection. So that's helped now to have a better and a much more stable relationship between farmers, dairy farmers on one hand, and dairy processor on the other hand, and also helps to absorb the high cost of producing the milk. So this milk source acquisition is accelerating and will continue in the future. So let's have a look now about the milk price paid to farmers. What you've got on that graph, this is the milk price on a monthly basis. And the important point is to see that you've got here the 2020 line. This is the green line here. And you can see that by 2020, we were already at quite a high rate, a high price for milk paid to farmers. And that been down and been increasing again on the second half of the year. In China, milk price paid to farmers is linked with the cost of producing the milk. So it's linked with the feed price. And by mid of last year, China have bought a lot of feed from mainly United States. And we've seen a huge rise of feed price around the world to quite unseen level. I think you need to go back to 2012 to see such a high feed price around the world. So that's explained why we're starting to see mid 2020 a rise of the milk price paid to farmers. And we've reached, by the end of 2020, we reached a record. Unseen record. We were even above 2013 December price. And if you remember what happened in 2013, 2014, this is where China used to buy a huge amount of powders and commodities. And that's been a starting point of the problem we've seen the next year. Beginning of 2021, we can see that the milk price is still going up, because feed price very expensive. And in April, price just been issued now, we're starting to see a small decline. So the key question for dairy processor is, okay, we've got more milk, we've got good quality milk coming from professional farms, but it's expensive. So we need to add value to that milk in order to sustain the growth we are expecting for the future. So the question is, what are we going to do with that milk? So if you look about this is the utilization of the domestic. I'm not talking about what's been imported. This is used of domestic liquid milk or milk pool within China. And you can see that you've got the green bar. This is the drinking milk. Might have put maybe not drinking milk, but maybe pasteurized milk. So in China, big chunk of what's been produced at farm level is sold as a pasteurized milk, and you've got more and more branded products, mainly sold in tier 1 and 2 cities. It's quite expensive, and it's a top quality drink. In tier 3, 4, and 5 cities, and I'm going to show that to you later on, because there is still a purchasing power problem. These guys are much more buying UHT milk that has been imported. But otherwise, big chunk of the growth of the milk pool is going through liquid milk, and that will continue to grow the utilization by 3.5% per year for the next 5 years. And the second utilization is the green bar, and this is yogurt. Great market, even if 2020 we've seen some problems for the yogurt, but it's going up again. And we tend to think that the utilization of milk within the yogurt market will grow by 4.2% per year for the other 5 years. So the key question now is, but what are we going to do? What are we going to do with imports? And so what will happen? So if you look about the total market in China, and you can summarize it by that graph. So what you've got here, you've got the 3 components of the graph. You've got consumption, collection, and imports. And you can see that imports should grow at a lower level than milk collection and milk consumption. And by 2025, imports should represent in the range of 30% of total consumption, where nowadays it's in the range of 33%. So we should see a slight decline of imports as a part of the total consumption. But if you look directly about products, here I'm putting you the 2021 expectation in terms of imports for the major commodities being imported by China. And you can divide this into 2 sections. On the left-hand side, you've got the products which got a link with the milk collection and the milk price. And the first one on the left-hand side is drinking milk, mainly UHT. And you can see that in 2021, we expect that part of the market to grow by 15%, 1.5, and to be close to 1 billion liters that are going to be imported by China, mainly from Europe, but also from New Zealand, Australia. This is mainly ESL, extended shelf life, but also now starting from the US. Whole milk powder, 13% this year. We've got some stocks nowadays in China, and some buffer stocks in the range of 240, 250,000 tons, which is lower than last year, but higher than what you used to have in China. And skim will grow by 7%. Level of stocks normal at the moment. And on the right-hand side, these are the key products that have been exported by mainly Europe, US, New Zealand. It's a product mainly used through the food service sector, where you've got the cream, 29% growth this year, cheese 24%, butter 12%, and AMF 8%. So all of these products will continue to grow heavily this year and also in the future. And just to summarize that, Q1 2021, total imports by China in liquid milk equivalent have grown by close to 28% compared to the same period last year. So optimism, we've got good consumption patterns in China. And even if we got a growing production of milk, we will continue to import product. And I just want to show you what's concerning cheese here. And you can see that we expect a 10% growth for the cheese imports within the next 5 years for a simple reason. China will not start to produce fresh natural cheese in China and will continue to mainly import. Cheese is not the best way to use the milk in China, and it's not the best way to add value, because most of that cheese is either used through the food service sector, mainly pizza plus a certain number of dishes who are now having cheese inside, or is used to produce processed cheese for a processed product sold within the retail sector, mainly dedicated to the kids. So that's explained why mozzarella is not really growing anymore. And we've got saturation of the market for mozzarella. But in 2021, we're starting to see a huge growth of cream cheese. That is mainly food service, bakery sector, plus cheddar, which is going through the processing side of the market. But there is always a but. What about infant formula? Infant formula, it's not growing anymore in terms of imports. So what I'm showing you here, this is on the left-hand side, this is the growth of imports of ready-to-use infant formula, been multiplied by 7 from 2009 till 2019, and nowadays is down. And this year will be really down. And we tend to think that the situation should stabilize in the range of 0, maybe to 1% growth per year for the next 5 years. This is a major concern for the infant formula producer, mainly in Europe, who are key exporters, and also in New Zealand, as you can see with the blue bar here, Europe, and the orange one, which is New Zealand. And this is due, and I'm showing you the latest number of births produced by China. These actually been produced and published beginning of the week, and you can see that we've got, after 2016, ability to have 2 kids. We've seen a decline of this birth rate down to a level where now we're in the range of 12 million babies per year, where we used to be in the range of 18 in 2016. But that needs, the Chinese will need to import more technical ingredients in order to produce this infant formula at home. So if we finish now with my concluding thoughts, we are going to see more milk because increasing herd. Let's see where the cows will come from. Dairy consumption will continue to grow in the next years, that for sure. And China will need more and more milk. And we haven't really talked about it, but I'm sure that have been tackled by other presenters during the day. E-commerce will play a role into that growth, because more and more of these dairy products will be sent home and will be bought through the e-commerce. The consolidation of the dairy industry in China will accelerate. And I think that that's the key point, and I will finish on that. Imports are going to be key for the future. But it's important to understand that China is making more and more the world price, because it's #1 importers of dairy products, and the Chinese demand will be absolutely fundamental for the next 6 months, if not for the next years. So thank you very much. It has been a real pleasure being here. And if there are any questions from the audience, I'm there to answer. Thank you very much. Goodbye.